Now, it is exactly 4 weeks today until the referendum on changes to the voting system for general elections. And under the alternative vote system, when we go to the ballot box, not just our first, but also our second and third choices could come into play until one candidate gets more than half the votes cast.
AV, as it's called, could significantly alter the political makeup in the region. In last year's general election, just 17 of our 59 MPs won with more than half the votes in their constituencies. AV wouldn't affect seats with outright winners, but for the rest, second and even third choices could produce an entirely different batch of MPs.
Well, our reporter Bob Hockenhull has been to Solihull, which the Lib Dems won by just 175 votes, to see what people there are making of it all.
Vote counting in the May 2010 general election. Could this be the last time that being first past the post guarantees victory for candidates, however tight the result? These campaigners in Solihull certainly hope so. They're trying to persuade shoppers to vote for the alternative vote. Under that system, victorious candidates must secure more than 50%, even if that involves using second and third choices.
People don't feel that they can vote for a party that they really want, and we have the system where a majority of MPs in Parliament have been elected on a minority of the vote. So this new system, I think, will really make a big change in making it a lot more democratic.
But those keen to keep the voting system as it is have also been out on the streets of Solihull. They believe introducing AV would be too complicated and too costly.
If I'm watching a race or taking part in a race, I want to be sure that the person who comes first actually wins. And that isn't the case with AV.
If the alternative vote had been in place, Solihull may well have had a different MP. So we asked people if they understand the system.
You vote for one person, and if he doesn't get the majority vote, it goes down to the next or something like that.
To be absolutely blunt, I don't even understand it.
I don't really watch a lot to do with politics, so I probably won't be voting.
It's not just one vote. Your vote can count over 2 or 3 candidates.
The local newspaper editor is confident most residents will want to vote in the referendum.
I think it's pretty far away on their radar, but it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I think come polling day and decision day on the referendum, I'm sure that they're going to be bombarded with information from both sides.
And for anyone who is still confused, you'll be receiving this leaflet in the post in the coming few days. It attempts to explain in a simple way the main differences between the current system and AV. Bob Hockenhull, BBC Midlands Today, Solihull.
Let's get more on this now from our political editor, Patrick Burns, who's in our newsroom. So, Patrick, how much of a difference would AV have made if it had been used in last year's general election?
It's impossible really to answer that question accurately, Suzanne. You can't really speculate about what voters would have done with their second, third and fourth preference votes. Some so-called think tanks have calculated that here in the Midlands it would have made the Conservatives worse off by 4 or 5 seats, Labour better off by a similar number, and the Liberal Democrats significantly better off. But really this is not an exact science. Frankly, it's not a science at all.
OK, Patrick, there is still quite a lot of time to go yet in this campaign, of course, but I have to say it hasn't really captured the public imagination, has it?
Not really, and during that epic parliamentary debate earlier this year, Labour peers were saying that what if the turnout really is spectacularly low, especially in those places that aren't having local elections on the same day? Wouldn't that really call into question the validity of the whole result? The other point about low turnouts is, of course, that those voters who are more minded towards reform and change as they see it are more likely to turn out, we think, historically, than those who favour the status quo.
OK, and just briefly, Patrick, the two campaigns have already had a lot to say about fairness and reform, haven't they? But does this really help us decide the choice before us?
Well, no, the key question is yes or no. Neither side has a monopoly of fairness, as we've heard there in Bob's report. Fairness is an elusive concept that can cut both ways.
OK, Patrick, thanks very much indeed.